Here's a clip from the Southwestern Lead app.
One of my favorite things to do is public speaking. I know everybody doesn't necessarily feel that way, but I'm very excited for you to grow in your public speaking knowledge, because one of the key aspects of being a great leader is being a great speaker and a great storyteller. And every part you give, whether you realize it or not, is a speech. And most professional speakers say you need to give at least 1,000 unpaid speeches before you start getting paid. And I think it's so incredible that you have all these opportunities, and you have this opportunity in front of you to practice and hone in on your speaking skills, so that perhaps one day, if you'd like, you might get paid good money to be a public speaker. So I'm going to give you guys a few tips. I hope you're ready to take some notes, because I take this seriously and I hope that you do too. But I'm going to give you guys a few tips on how to be a great speaker. We're going to talk about preparation. We're going to talk about delivery. And we're going to talk about a pre-speech warm-up, and then a few bonus points. So when it comes to speech preparation, we all know the saying, proper preparation prevents poor performance. The same applies for speeches. I would prep based on the size of the meeting, if you get what I mean. Like if there was going to be 10 people there, I'd put almost no time into it. If there was going to be 500 people there, I'd put a lot of time into it. But that's not fair. Because A, you never know who's going to be at the meeting and what connections you might make to be able to speak more. But B, if you don't give your best at every speech, then you're not learning as much from every speech. You're not growing as much from every speech, and you're not providing as much value to the people. And that's not fair. So the trick is treat every speech like you're going to get paid $10,000 to give it. Treat every speech like you are the keynote speaker. So take that level of seriousness into your preparation. Now, that might seem overwhelming at first, but once you start doing a lot of speeches, preparation can go quick. I'm not talking about spending a lot of time, but be intentional and be prepared. One thing that you really should prepare, and this is something even I still need to work on a lot, is presentations, a PowerPoint. Now, the reason that we often do PowerPoints, every once in a while, it's okay to do a part, especially if it's a very kind of loose and lofty part, to be more discussion without a PowerPoint. But for the most part, it's safer with a PowerPoint or presentation. Now, the key when making a PowerPoint, once again, hope you're taking notes here, don't overload with words. Biggest mistake people make in PowerPoints, besides making them ugly, in my opinion, is they overload the pages with words. Why is that a mistake? Think about when you're watching a speaker and they put a slide up there with a bunch of words. What do you start doing? If you're taking notes, you start writing down all the words on the slide. Are you listening to anything that the speaker is saying? You're paying attention to the slide, not the speaker. So don't overload slide with words. Otherwise, they're going to watch the slide and not listen to you. Here's what you want on a slide. You either want a few key bullet points, just key bullet points. You'll fill in the details, maybe a quote and some pictures. And that's not all on the same slide. That's the only things you want on any of the slides: key bullet points, quotes, or pictures. I love using pictures because pictures speak 1,000 words, and the pictures help bring emotion and 3D life to the words that you're speaking. Quotes can also be powerful because you can put up the picture of the person who gave the quote. People can write the quote word for word down. And then key bullet points, I like those for two reasons. One is those are good things for people to take notes on, but two, it helps keep me on track. So another reason I like using a PowerPoint, and why I encourage you to, is it helps you memorize the general structure so that you can use the PowerPoint as a memory jogger. Because another key indicator of a novice speaker is speaking while looking at your phone for your notes. Do you think a keynote speaker, do you think Tony Robbins or Les Brown ever goes on stage in front of a stadium and looks at their phone for notes? Well, if you want to get paid like a professional, you need to train and act like a professional. So use your PowerPoint as a memory jogger, not your phone. So those few key bullet points are for you as well. That's preparation. Once you've prepared, it's time to deliver a powerful speech. So here's the 3 keys to delivering a powerful speech. Real simple. First one, start with a powerful opener. I remember I used to just start speeches with, here's why you should do it and here's how you should do it. And that's good. You always want to explain the why before the how, but there was no emotion behind my training. I was just a very technical, I have a driver personality. I just want to get straight to the point. Here's what it is. Here's how you got to do it. And I'll never forget one of my colleagues and good friends, Jeffrey Powers, he gave me the quote, never tell a story without a point, or a point without a story. And I remember realizing over the years and watching motivational speakers that all they tell are stories, because facts tell, but stories sell. So begin with a powerful opener. And one of those powerful openers could be a story. Have a list of 100 stories in your life. And I spent a lot of time, on a flight one time and just writing down lists of stories from my life and going through different phases in my memory banks. And it was kind of fun, going through those and trying to write them down. But I probably got to like 50 or 60. So now what I do is anytime I think of a story or something happens to me, I'll make sure to add it to that list, because you can reference that list of stories for any topic you're discussing. So if you're talking about a financial topic, that might be a different story than if you're talking about an emotional growth topic, or if you're talking about overcoming challenges. You would use different stories, or maybe you have different points from the stories, because you can have multiple points per story as well. So the point is, have a list of stories, or at least have stories in your memory bank that you can reference when you want to tell a point, especially to open. Another great way to open a speech is with a really engaging hypothetical question. So something that really gets people thinking. So let's say you're giving a speech on preparing. And a great way to start that speech is, can any of you think of a time where you procrastinated on a big project? Maybe you had a speech for class to give. Maybe you had a big important test coming up, or maybe you had a deadline in your job. Can any of you think of a time where you procrastinated and at one point you realized that your deadline was so short to complete the project, you went into go mode and your anxiety kicked in? Anybody know what I'm talking about there? So think of a point where you forgot to prepare. It sucked, right? Pause for dramatic effect. And then you go into, well, what I'm about to teach you today is a really simple system to help stop yourself from procrastinating and help you prepare in an easy and effective way to make sure that you're never caught by that panic monster ever again. So it's a hypothetical question that everybody can relate to, that gets them in the emotion of the problem that you're about to address. So the whole point of the story or the hypothetical question is to relate with people emotionally regarding the problem that you are about to teach on. Dave Brown always talks about CPR, cut, pour, remedy. Well, that's a great way to sell. That's what you're doing in a speech, is you're selling something. You're selling an idea. You're selling information. Well, in order to sell effectively, you got to help people feel emotionally why they should listen to you. So that cut portion is a story or hypothetical question that gets them in the feels. Second aspect of delivery is, once again, utilizing your PowerPoint as a memory jogger to keep on track and deliver a clear and logical progression in your message. Because it's very common that people go, a great way to tell if somebody's an amateur speaker is if they're jumping all over the place when delivering a speech. Oh, and I forgot about this point. And oh, this just made me think, I forgot to tell you about this too. So your PowerPoint will help you stay on track. And especially if you're delivering what I consider usually more emotional or philosophical topics, sometimes it can be very challenging to keep your thoughts in order and deliver it in a clear and concise way that people understand. So your PowerPoint will help you keep on track if you did a great job preparing it. And then try to tell mini stories for each point. Because remember, you never tell a story without a point, or a point without a story. Because it's so important to understand that people engage with stories. I remember, here's a great example for you. I remember when I was up and coming in high school, I hated going to class. I really didn't like many of my teachers or my subjects, but there was this one teacher that I adored. he taught physics, and I ended up really enjoying physics. And I realized looking back, it was because he always had hilarious stories of all these physics mishaps that kept us engaged when he was teaching. So if you can tell stories, whether they're funny or sad, something that engages an emotion for each point, you'll keep people with you.
Southwestern Lead is an international leadership program that helps you build skills, gain confidence, and discover new opportunities. With professional coaching, a world-class digital learning platform, and certifications that will enhance your resume or application, Lead sets you apart. We'll show you how to turn success principles into success habits through small group training, one-on-one coaching, and guided action plans to help you apply what you're learning. It takes more than academics to reach your goals. See what one of America's oldest leadership training programs can do for you. Visit southwesternlead.com.
And then lastly, end with a powerful closer. There's that saying that people won't remember what you say, but they'll remember how you made them feel. And the last thing that they'll remember from your part is your closing statement. So you want your closing statement to be powerful. The story that you can tell at the end, or the question that that inspires action, that's how people are going to remember your part. So what's neat about that is you can make a few mistakes in the middle of the speech, but if you know clearly how you're going to end, and you have a powerful story or another powerful question or a challenge for the audience, that's going to help clean up any mess you potentially made earlier, because people will remember your ending and how it made them feel. So try to tell a story, try to have an action item or a challenge, something that will emotionally engage with the people and reconnect them with the pain that you're trying to help solve. So those are the three main parts of a speech and how to kind of navigate your way through them. Now, a couple bonus points are: slow down. You have no need to rush. There is immense power in a pause. See? We often think that our goal is to cram as much information. I talk fast, I understand that, and sometimes I do, but I also try to place pauses in the right place, because when we pause, we let everything slow down, and instead of cramming information into people's brains, we're actually helping it seep in and settle in. I always give a great example of who's one of the greatest voiceover actors of all time: Morgan Freeman. Well, what's Morgan's pace? Low and slow, but man, do we listen to him when he talks. Pauses are powerful. Don't be afraid to use them, which means that you're going to have to get comfortable with silence. A lot of speakers might not be comfortable with silence. Maybe you're worried that people are wondering if you're trying to think about what you're going to say next, but silence is okay. Silence is good. Silence gives variety to the speech and the pace, but more importantly, silence after a well-placed point helps it land. So think of where you're going to want to pause for effect. And a great way to do this is get yourself present and really tap into not only being present, but just letting your emotions flow through as you tell stories and points, because a lot of this is going to come from practice. I do not personally think actively about where I'm going to pause, or where I'm going to speed up, or where I'm going to raise my tone or lower my tone. That has just come from a lot of practice, but it really just comes from being present. And when you're present and you let your emotions tell the stories, it's when you get in your head that you sound like somebody up there reading off notes, or that you sound like you're giving a canned speech. But when you're present and let your emotions tell the stories and the points, that's when you have powerful variety in your speech that really helps keep people engaged and helps keep people learning as you're giving them these points. And that leads to the very last thing, which I consider to be the most important part of a speech. The most important part of a speech, the most important part of almost anything, is the 3 to 5 minutes before it happens. Now, why is that? Because those 3 to 5 minutes before it happens is where you have an opportunity to ground yourself. And what does that mean? I think the most important way we can ground ourselves is by letting go of our ego. What I mean by that is a lot of people, when they go into a conversation or they go into a speech or presentation, they're thinking about me, myself, and I. What can I get from this? What are they going to think of me? Are they going to love me? Are they going to hate me? I, me. That's what most people are thinking about when they go into a speech or even a one-on-one conversation. But if you can get in the habit, and I hope you apply this everywhere in your life. See, I'm ending here on a powerful message, on a powerful action item here, because I really believe one of the most powerful things that will change your life is getting in the habit of grounding yourself before an activity, especially an activity where you're involving other people. So let go, self-talk to let go of your ego. Every time, even before I recorded this video, I reminded myself, this video is not about me. It's not about me being able to teach these people or me being the face of this message. It's simply about the message. And then if you can relate to this too or connect with this, then I pray for God to help give me the strength to keep myself out of the equation. I remind myself that the speech isn't about me. It's about the message. And I ask God to allow me to be a vehicle for a powerful message that can help change people's life. Because a message can change people's life. I have been changed forever by speeches that I've heard, whether live or over video. And you have that power too. Every one of you has that power. It's just buried deep beneath the ego and all these thoughts that get in your way when you're trying to do it. And that will prep you to have an incredible part more than anything else I just said. Everything else I said is important, but if you don't do that, then you're going to be stuck in your head and you will not be an effective speaker. So I hope this was helpful. I know it was powerful. The question is, are you going to use it or not? So go forth and change some people's lives.